How much money would it cost to buy your integrity? If you could have everything you ever wanted right now in this very moment, but it costs your dignity, self-respect, and character, how would you treat someone if you knew for a fact that they were being paid in order to distract you, whose sole purpose is to make sure that you never soar to the heights that you know you're capable of, who's only loyal to the highest bidder or whoever they could extract the most resources from? How does it feel to know that someone who's supposed to be close to you is only loyal as far as you can pay them, even if they don't deserve it? If you really think about it, the number of people on this earth who are millionaires and super wealthy is a really small percentage. Yet how many people who don't have the money are willing to compromise their morals, integrity, and values all for a few dollars? Money and wealth are neutral resources, but once you begin to love them so much that you put a price tag on your soul, that's when you've gone too far. And so today we want to talk about the idea of naming your price, understanding the importance of not having a price for every single thing in your life, because not everything could be for sale. Money and wealth are neutral resources, neither good or bad. It's what you do with them. But once you learn to love riches more than you love your own soul, more than you value your own character and integrity, that's when you've gone too far. Finding that perspective and understanding the beautiful balance between being fairly compensated but also not compromising and selling out just for a few more dollars, because there's never an amount of money that cannot be made or spent. But once you start to put a price on your soul, that's when you start to lose everything. Some things really are prices, and your morals, character, and value should definitely be one of them. The most important things in this world are absolutely priceless. So whether you allow others to do it or you put a price on your soul yourself, either way you've lost the perspective of realizing just how powerful and important the thing that's inside of you is. Because of perceived importance, they're often turned into idols, powerless unless we choose to give it to them. Literally pieces of papers and numbers that don't mean anything unless we give it that importance. But once we do, money and wealth are neutral resources, powerless in and of themselves, literally paper, but destructive to the people who decide to worship them. And so today we must talk about the idea of character and why certain things are far too important to ever put an earthly price tag on, and why certain things can never be for sale, especially the most important ones. When your character is for sale, you become a slave to consumption. Whoever controls the almighty dollar is the person who you'll be beholden to. And generally speaking, if you're not the person at the top, that means you're not the person in charge of making the most important decisions in your life. No amount of money, fame, material, acclaim, any of it could ever be worth the price of your integrity, your character, your soul. It's who you are when nobody's looking. It's what's going on in your mind and thoughts when nobody else is around. Wouldn't it make sense to make sure that the person you're with is someone who you actually respect? How does it make you feel when someone who you know and love, someone who you respected, sells out for money, compromises their integrity for a few dollars? Does it make you want to be more like them? Does it feel admirable? Once again, no amount of fame, money, attention, material, anything could ever be worth the price of your soul, your character, your integrity, your dignity, your self-respect. All of these are covenants that you make with yourself. And once you decide to break or disrespect that bond, that's when things start to go left. Once you decide to stand on a firm foundation of your character, whatever it may be, patiently, diligently, unwilling to waver and compromise the things that matter most to you, you become the best. You become unstoppable. Once you decide to stand on business, not compromise your morals, not allow for holes to be punched in your integrity, moving patiently, faithfully, and with courage, that's how you know you're really winning in life. Freedom without responsibility is dangerous, and it's mostly fool's gold. In fact, once you acquire more wealth, it means you have to become an even better steward of the resources that you've been given. Why? Because unlike the times where you didn't have it, now you have the power and resources to actually do some real damage or good, should you decide to do it. Which one will you choose? Because once you get the money, you would then have to make the choice. Do as much good, spread love and kindness in a way that only you can, or live a life of gluttony, overindulgence, hollow victory, and excuses for why you didn't do everything you could have, especially when it was right there at your fingertips. It's one thing to not have the resources, but once you got them, that's a whole different thing. It's also one thing to not have it and sell your soul just to get a few more dollars. Because once you get the money, then what? There's always another dollar you could chase, you only get one soul. There's always another house or a car or a thing that you could chase, that you could place importance on, but you only get one character. The freedom we seek only comes with discipline. Having more money, especially when it already cost you your integrity to get it, it's like pouring gasoline into a building that's already burning. It's only gonna make things worse. There will always be another dollar to be made. Chaos is not freedom. Unbridled abundance without the wisdom or discernment in order to be able to steward it is a problem. It's dangerous, not only in having it, but the potential for having it and what it can do for you when you love money more than you love the values that you choose to stand by. If you truly understood just how priceless you, your soul, your being, your integrity, all of it was, would you ever risk selling it for a few pieces of paper that are constantly being printed every second of the day? Doesn't make sense. If you truly understood the precious value that is you, your soul, your dignity, your worth, your self-respect, all of it, would you ever even consider risking it all for a piece of paper? Money that could be printed every second of the day? Doesn't make sense when you think about it that way. Chaos is not freedom, especially when structure, systems, and the ability to choose them are right there at your fingertips. What are you choosing for yourself? Material abundance without the peace of mind, wisdom, and discernment to be able to steward it is not only pointless, but it's potentially disruptive to whatever progress you were making. I recently saw a podcast where one of the greatest boxers of all time was being interviewed about coming out of retirement. And the question everybody asked him was, how much would it cost to get you to go back on your word? How much would it cost to get you to come out of retirement and do what everybody else wants you to do? Take the money, give us one more fight, hundreds of millions of dollars, and everything will work out in the end. The only thing is, you have to go back on your word. You have to compromise what you committed to. Even though you said publicly you were going to do one thing, you have to show your sons, families, and friends that there is an amount of money that I'm willing to be bought and paid for. Growing up, I was taught that a man only has two things, his word and his name. And once you compromise either, it's really hard to get them back. It's the idea of how it takes a really long time to build up trust, but instantly you can lose it. Just like that. Well, the same thing goes for your dignity and self-respect. If all it takes is somebody to dangle a $100 million carrot in front of you, which is a lot, what else are you willing to compromise? What else will you sell? The host asked him, what if they offer you $100 million? That has to be enough, because if they offer me $100 million, I would literally sell my soul. Huh? When you have grown men telling you how they'll sell their soul for a few dollars, you know it's time for a change. Somebody has to speak up and acknowledge that we cannot compromise our character just for a few bucks. You could sell your soul for $100 billion. If you only have a week left to live, what was it all worth? This is why some things cannot be compromised. This is why the most important things cannot be up for sale, because once they are, nothing else makes sense. How can you sleep the night away knowing that you compromise your integrity? How can you live with yourself knowing that the very thing that was supposed to define you, bought and paid for with a few bucks, and that's all it took? When people know that they can control you, especially with money and resources, you become their slave, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. You become under their thumb. They rule you, and it's all because you chose to give it to them. There should be no amount of money that you would even joke about selling your soul for, because what's the point of gaining the whole world if you lose the very thing that makes life worthwhile? If there's any chance that you ever have to come up against eternity living with yourself, knowing that you compromised for things that weren't even worth it, what's that going to do to your spirit? What's that going to do to your mind every time you go to sleep, knowing that the person who you lay down with every single night cannot be trusted? They might sell you up the river. They might compromise what you say is important for a few bucks. That's not the type of person you can rely on, and that's not the person you can never allow yourself to become. This is the infinite evolution. And it doesn't matter how good, bad, selfish, careless, any of the bad words you think. When you give that person power over you, control over your life simply because they can dangle the carrot of a few dollars over you, that's when all is lost. Because what are you even doing it for at that point? We have become obsessed with the idea of freedom while not even truly understanding what it means, while also having zero clue as to how to understand it. But if all it takes is a few bucks to get you to compromise on doing what's right, whether it's in your mind, in your heart, in your body, your spirit, whatever, if it forces you to compromise your integrity, you know on some level it can't be good for you. So don't give in to it. I'm not talking about being foolishly stubborn or unwilling to grow, evolve, or change in the areas in which you need to. I'm talking about not compromising and settling when you know you shouldn't. Your standards should be sky high, but you're still accepting middle of the road, constantly obsessed over the idea of freedom. But once you choose to compromise, choose to do what's wrong, choose to not follow your heart, give in to temptation, and accept the bribe that costs you your soul, what do you really have left? You may have gained a little bit of financial freedom, but you threw away the most important freedom, the one that comes with peace of mind, the freedom that comes with self-respect, knowing that you are a person who you can believe in, who you can admire and look up to, that your kids or your family or whoever is around you will feel honored and respected to know that you made the right decision for the people, community, and village that helped raise you, teach you, heal you, pray for you, encourage you, guide you, give you everything you needed. Imagine not showing up and disrespecting the honors and sacrifices they made for you. Because what if your family, friends, community, and even future self are all watching you? What would they say? You might think that they would understand. Well, he was desperate, he needed the money. You might, or it might be the exact opposite. They might look at you a little bit differently, because even though they might accept the benefits of the money, they still know what you did to compromise it. And you still know what you did to compromise it. And every single night you live with all of the wealth, that's one more day, one more step where the wealth is no longer special. But guess what is? Guess what will stand out in your mind? The decision you made to compromise or not, depending on what your character is. This is the infinite evolution. So often we hear about how money is the root of all evil, but it's not true. In fact, that might even be the most popular misquote ever. The true statement is the love of money is the root of all evil. The money itself isn't greedy. The cash doesn't bribe. The dinero isn't lying. The skrill of the paper, all of it isn't doing the negativity. It's the person behind it. It's the love of money that leads to destruction, not money itself. So why would you ever choose to hand over your soul for a few pennies? And make no mistake about it, everything compared to the price of your soul, the true value of you is worth pennies, if that much. And even that is being generous. Compromising something as priceless, as timeless, that you'll never be able to get back, like your self-respect, like your character, like your soul, is not the type of thing that you can afford to play with. If the value of what you give up is priceless, why would it ever matter how much you got in return? And it wouldn't matter if it was millions, billions, or trillions. If the value of what you give up is priceless, you can never get a fair exchange. And is there anything more priceless than your dignity, your self-worth, your soul? There will always be another dollar, whether you're chasing it or losing it. But you only get one you. You only get one life. Should it really ever be up for sale, especially when the highest bidder is for sure a lowball offer? The moment you begin to compromise and accept payments for things that should never even be on the table, you got an issue. Maybe for you it isn't money that gets you to compromise your integrity. Maybe it's something else. Whatever the case, you cannot be bribed on your character. By the way, beyond just your character, your soul, your spirit, your dignity, self-respect, there are other aspects of you that are also priceless and that you got to be really aware to not compromise. How much would it cost to get you to compromise your health? Is a fun time worth drinking a little bit of poison? Is a stressful day worth stuffing your face with the worst foods possible? Because it might make you feel good for a little moment. You might get a little dopamine hit, but what is it ultimately doing to you in the long run? What about your health? How much would it cost to get you to delay your dreams just a little bit further? Maybe a couple hours playing video games, maybe a few more hours doom scrolling or social media, maybe a little bit of Netflix is just what the doctor ordered to keep you from where you want to be. Either way, you're taking a bribe. Most people will never be offered $1 million, but you will be offered 1 million opportunities in order to make a difference. Will you sell out to the highest bidder or the most entertaining thing at the moment, or will you be faithful and true to yourself? This is the infinite evolution. Not just asking the question, but doing something about it. Not just being a dreamer and a speaker, a poet of beautiful words, but a doer of deeds, a person of action, somebody who's driven by results and somebody who's not looking for shortcuts, bribes, and to circumvent the process, because you know the process just might be the most important thing. Imagine taking a bribe in order to skip it. If the process of developing and learning is one of the most important things we have, how much would it cost to get you to delay your development? Time spent reading and studying is not the same as time spent doing nothing or watching a big game. Both have benefits and drawbacks, but you gotta decide what's most important. The freedom we seek only comes with discipline. 9 times out of 10, your temptation won't be $1 million. It'll be 1 million tiny moments of temptation and how you choose to be disciplined. This is the infinite evolution. What about relationships? How much would it cost to get you to compromise your relationship? If trust is really delicate, easy to break, much harder to build, how much are you willing to risk the very thing that you spend so much time building? The bond, the connection, is all of it worth a little bit of attention? fame, a little bit of money, so often people compromise the things that they worked so hard for a brief moment of pleasure. And once you get the thing, once you actually receive the thing that you compromised for, you don't even enjoy it that much. Once you understand that delayed gratification is the way, that discipline is freedom, this is when you become your best self. This is when you unlock that greatness, and this is the infinite evolution.